We've had lots of debates about Bo Bichette, but it looks like he is finally here to stay.
You are Locked On Blue Jays, your daily Toronto Blue Jays podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to Locked On Blue Jays. Thank you for making Locked On Blue Jays your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. As always, I'm Braden Wasco. He's Carter First. You can find us on Twitter, Braden5Wasco, Carter First too, as well on Instagram and TikTok at Locked On Blue Jays. If you're new here to YouTube or you're listening anywhere else on any other streaming site, you can follow us on this YouTube page. It really keeps you guys up to date, helps us out a ton. To let you guys know if we go live, post any shorts, videos, etc. So make sure you hit that subscribe button. It really does help us out. We have the Discord link down in the description, so you guys can hit that. Talk Blue Jays with us whenever you want. And also, we are doing Movember for a good cause. If you guys can donate anything, we'd really appreciate it. The link is down below. Please go and hit that. Whatever you could donate, it really would help a ton. We appreciate it to those of you who have already. Carter, a lot to get into today. Ross Atkins went on and had some stuff to say on a ton of Blue Jays information. Today, we're going to specifically talk about who's here to stay, talking about Bo Bichette, what's going on with that situation as well. The catcher tandem. It's a question that keeps being brought up back and forth between us and on different podcasts as well, we've heard throughout Blue Jays media. And we have some answers, or sort of answers today. So we'll get into all that. But Carter, let's start off with the big Bo Bichette news.
Yeah, if it's not Vladimir Guerrero Jr. in that storyline, the next biggest storyline among Toronto Blue Jays media, I guess Juan Soto we can throw in there too, but it's Bo Bichette. Bo Bichette is one of the superstars on the Toronto Blue Jays, and Ross Atkin throughout the offseason, throughout his press conferences, has been very adamant that he does not want to move on from Bo Bichette. He does not want Bo Bichette leaving the Toronto Blue Jays organization. And again, that was confirmed by John Morosi. Ross Atkins told me his answer is an easy no to any trade inquiries on Bo Bichette. So again, nothing new really for Bo Bichette here. He's been very adamant that he wants to keep Bo Bichette in this organization because he's been very adamant that he believes the Toronto Blue Jays can compete for a playoff spot and even a deep playoff run in 2025. So we're kind of at the point where this rebuilding talk is in the past. Like the Toronto Blue Jays just simply are not going to rebuild the season. That's not in the cards. They're not going to sell their big pieces right now. They are trying to win in 2025. So in that sense, we have said multiple times on this podcast, if you want to win now, why would you trade one of your best players? Just doesn't really make any logical sense. Bo Bichette obviously had a down year. The stats, you could look at pretty much everything. His at-bats didn't look as serious. Chase rate, he was chasing pitches that he just usually didn't chase from the eye test. When you look at the numbers overall for the chase rate, the barrel balls, things like that, they're pretty similar to other years. It was just one of those years for Bo Bichette that literally nothing went right for the guy.
Yeah, and that'll happen as a baseball player. And I think the biggest thing is, and this is what we've went through sort of throughout this season and into the offseason with the Toronto Blue Jays, is realizing not to pull the plug too early. Because there was a lot of talk around maybe the Blue Jays should just move on from Bo Bichette and trade him and sort of revamp the system. But I think now we're all understanding. We've sort of come back down to planet Earth here and are understanding that this only makes the team worse if Bo Bichette leaves. You need to keep this guy around. The big thing is building around him and Vlad. And we've talked numerous times about this, nonstop actually, that these two guys are the cornerstones of your baseball team. The biggest thing is to keep them around and keep them happy. And hopefully that will inspire them to play better. Bo Bichette isn't going to have another down year like this. Yes, he might not be, leading the league in hits, but you just need him to be good. You need Bo Bichette to be good. You need Vladimir Guerrero Jr. to be good, and you need to bring an outside piece of what we've talked about. But I think the big thing out of all this is we finally do get an answer, a pretty clear answer actually, out of Ross Atkin saying that Bo Bichette's not going to be traded.
And this is an interesting piece that I kind of wanted to get into a little bit further because there was a conversation that, again, they didn't say which reporter was saying this. It remained anonymous, but it was a conversation with Ross Atkins, and I'll just kind of narrate it here. So the reporter says, are people asking about Bo? Atkins says, we don't comment on potential moves. Reporter says, the editor, Atkins is just there to, Atkins just said there's a potential to move Bo. The editor goes, well, go ask him who is asking. I'll call Morosi. And then John Morosi reports sources say that the Toronto Blue Jays are entertaining offers on Bo. So an interesting piece there. And one thing that I want to continue to say, Ross Atkin has been very adamant that says he's not entertaining offers for Bo Bichette. And I've been very open on this podcast about saying I don't want Bo Bichette to move either. But I think you'd be absolutely insane right now since you haven't signed Bo Bichette. Why wouldn't you at least be hearing offers for Bo Bichette? I don't want you to move them, but if they get absolutely blown away, maybe there's a deal that you don't necessarily expect, and a team is wanting to overpay for Bo Bichette. Maybe they give you pieces right now. Maybe they give you some highly touted prospects that you could build for the future. At minimum, I would want Ross Atkin to at least be hearing these people out. Maybe not as a serious we're going to move Bo Bichette, but kind of see what his price range is around the league right now.
I don't mind it. I understand the thought process from you. This doesn't irk me in any sort of way. I think he wants to set a precedent and show Bo Bichette, and this is probably what it more so is showing Bo Bichette that we want him here. And I think him saying that, even if they are entertaining offers, I think he's never going to say anything because he wants to have it in the world that Bo Bichette is going to be a Toronto Blue Jay. Also, John, I just wanted, before I forget, I don't trust a word John Morosi says. So whatever, keep his name out of that. That would be great for me. Don't even mention him. No, Bo Bichette, I think this is more of a leveraged tool in Bo Bichette's head, sort of coming from Ross Atkin saying, hey, we want you here. We're not even listening to offers because we are going to get this deal done. That, in my head, that's what's going on here. I don't think, I can't imagine, like you said, that he's not at least hearing out what the options are. I just think this is a little bit of a PR play here from Ross Atkins.
See, my issue with that is if Ross Atkins claims that he loves Bo Bichette so much, he thinks he's such a good baseball player, we can even throw Vladimir Guerrero Jr. in this conversation as well. Why in the hell have you not extended either of these players in? If you love these guys, you think they're so good at baseball, they're so good for this organization, and you haven't really gotten anywhere. We haven't heard anything positive about contract talks whatsoever. Yes, there's interest in re-signing them, but that's obviously what you're going to say, as you kind of said about Bo Bichette. You don't want him to lose the leverage. You don't want to make it clear to Bo Bichette that you don't want him at the franchise, even if that is your real capability and your real direction for the team. But if you haven't been clear about even giving him a good offer or just any sort of positiveness coming from contract extension talks, it's tough for me to believe that Bo Bichette's going to be excited or even like listening to Ross Atkins and taking him seriously of what he's saying on the press.
Oh man, that is the big question around all this is why is there no extensions in play? These could have been done 2 years ago, Carter, when, Bo Bichette would have been at a high, but Vladimir Guerrero Jr. would have been at a low. You might have gotten him at a discount. Now you're back in the same situation with Bo Bichette coming off a down year and still no deal is in place. And we get there's a lot of money that needs to be discussed here. These are two highly paid players and they will be paid very, very heavily. But in the same respect, I think you making a conscious effort to get them signed shows more than you talking to the press about some random question a reporter asked. So maybe these conversations are going on, and I'm sure they are behind closed doors. But it's weird for me to think about that neither of them, that there hasn't been something accepted yet and it's been out there in the media. I think that this is a bad sign for the Toronto Blue Jays when they're looking to now sign extra pieces to surround Bo and Vlad with. This is probably not great. I think the quicker that they can get those extensions done and show guys that, hey, we are ready to make a push, we are ready to sign more guys to surround our all-stars with, that is probably a big draw for Toronto. But right now, they're sort of shooting themselves in the foot here.
Now, the longer you wait to sign Bo Bichette, the longer you wait to sign Vladimir Guerrero Jr., we'll focus on Bo Bichette for this episode, though. The longer you wait for this guy, the more leverage you lose. Bo Bichette hits the open market, and then you get in a bidding war with the New York Mets like you are in, I guess, with the Juan Soto, the Alex Bregman talks. You get in a bidding war with the Los Angeles Dodgers. You get in a bidding war with the New York Yankees. All of these teams that have been willing to fork over these massive contracts. And I feel like this is a little bit of a song and dance that we have seen with Vladimir Guerrero Jr. as well. In 2023, having a little bit of a down year, people sort of giving up on him a little bit, the same way they're giving up on Bo Bichette right now. But you see how Vladimir Guerrero Jr. stormed back the next season. I'm not going to say that Bo Bichette's going to go out there and hit necessarily 30 home runs. They have very different play styles. But Bo Bichette I can definitely see a scenario where he's up there in the top 10 and hits in the league. He's driving the ball the opposite field. He's making good contact. He's hitting balls, bad ball hitter as Bo Bichette is. He's hitting balls that pitchers are scratching their heads at how he even got the barrel of the ball. So if you're so confident with Bo Bichette, I just don't understand why you wouldn't take this opportunity to do a buy low here, sign him to a contract that wouldn't nearly be as much as it would have been in the year of 2023 or 2022. Bo Bichette is, if fantasy talks, big fantasy guy. This is a buy low candidate. He's coming off a down year. If you're so high on him having a bounce back season, you might as well sign him at his lowest point.
Carter, I'm really confused with this. I thought that a deal was going to be done fairly quickly. As soon as free agency started, I thought there was going to be pen to paper. Those guys were going to sign extensions, and that was going to be how they kick off the free agency, and to show guys that they're willing to keep guys around and re-sign and spend the money that needs to be spent. They're now in a position where they're trying to sign guys without putting the extensions in place, which will put them even more in the hole for seasons to come. Doesn't really make me believe that they're going to go and make some of these big signings, because they haven't paid the guys who are homegrown talent. It doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever.
Well, it just doesn't leave you with a lot of confidence with Ross Atkin. Obviously, to start the offseason, you get rid of Cabrera. We've kind of covered. Didn't really make sense there. Some just mind-blowing things that seem like are right in front of Ross Atkin's face. The fans are all saying, a lot of Blue Jays media are kind of together on a lot of these issues. Not as much on Bo Bichette, but definitely with the Vladimir Guerrero Jr. stuff. It's funny to me that so many fans can see the obvious move, and Ross Atkin just continues to fail to make it.
Yeah, and you know what? We're going to keep having the same discussions and the same arguments, because like I swear to God, we were talking about these extensions back in May. Like, I just don't know at what point Ross Atkins is like, okay, now's the time. It can't be in the middle of the season. Do you want a contract negotiation hanging over the heads of your two superstar players going into a year where you're looking to make a huge comeback season? I'm very confused. I'm very concerned about the organization. People have commented to us and saying, why do you not believe in Ross Atkins? You've seen stuff he does. And I'm like, exactly. I've seen the stuff Ross Atkins does to make me believe that this contract negotiation will take into the middle of the season next year. And I pray it won't, but in my head, that's the image of Ross Atkins I have. And then we're going to be questioning, why in the world are the Toronto Blue Jays not as good? Why is Vlad not having as good of a year? Why is Bo not having as good of a start to the year? Well, because they're worried about their next contract. They're worried, am I going to have to pick my life up and move now? It's all of these little things that could be handled in the offseason and handled well, but instead are going to get pushed into the season, where now not only are Vlad and Bo, I said Vlad and Bo, but not only them, their teammates are concerned about where direction the team is going to go if Vlad and Bo are going to resign, because if those two don't resign, that means a huge loss for the organization. And the fans, in the same respect, are probably wondering the same thing, or losing hope in what you can do. There's a lot of little pieces that go into this. And at the end of the day, why not just get this done?
Yeah, to end things off, Ross Atkins has done a lot of talking. He's talked about how much he loves Bo Bichette. He's talked about how much he loves Vladimir Guerrero Jr. He talked about signing Shohei Ohtani last season. He talked about how he's in with Juan Soto. He talked about all these different things. And I think this is kind of what you were getting at. Actions speak louder than words. If he actually wants to act on this, if he wants the Toronto Blue Jays to be a competitive team in 2025, again, not as much from the free agency standpoint, because it just started, but do something. Like, at the end of the day, it's as simple as that. Just literally do anything to get the Toronto Blue Jays fans back on your side.
Yeah, and we've had the conversation. We wanted there to be an early signing to set the tone for the free agency. Haven't seen that yet. I haven't ruled it out. I haven't been like, it's now like, too early for that hot start of what we wanted to call it. I think by next week, though, I want to see something happen. I want to see a decent signing. I'm not saying it has to be a big signing, because some guys will take their time, but it's something. I want to see something happen that shows that Ross Atkins is willing to make the right moves this season. In saying that, I mean, we have so much information to get to here coming out of the Ross Atkins interview, just the offseason in general, so much. We're going to come right back. We're going to talk the catcher tandem and what's sort of happening there, because it is an interesting, Ross Atkins had a little bit of an interesting piece to say on this as well. So we'll take a quick break and we'll be right back.
Today's episode sponsor is Robinhood. With Robinhood Gold, you don't need a silver spoon to eat up the financial favors of the 1%. Robinhood Gold allows others to get the rates and perks usually reserved for high society. Now, the resourceful individual with Robinhood Gold can earn the very liberal rate of 4.5% APY on uninvested cash, and can be rewarded with a handsome 3% retirement boost on an IRA account. Robinhood Gold provides the privileges of a high net worth for any net worth. These generous benefits are now available for only $5 a month. The new gold standard is here with Robinhood Gold. Sign up at robinhoodgold.com/gold. Terms apply. For product-specific disclosures, visit robinhood.com/gold. Investing involves risks. Rate may change. Gold membership is offered by Robinhood Gold, LLC. Today's episode is also sponsored by Arena Club. For most of us that like collecting cards, the idea of spending $2,000 or more on a Vladdy rookie card, a Mahomes rookie card, or a Paul Skeens rookie card just isn't in the cards. I love collecting, but that's some serious money to drop. Thanks to slab packs from arenaclub.com, now it's possible to score gem mints for a fraction of their retail price. Arena Club is the only repack that provides real value, a complete view of all possible cards, and clear hit rates on each one. Opening packs is it's so much more fun than buying individual cards. You get that anticipation, you get the little bit of nerves flowing through your system, and then you pull a card. It just feels so much better than buying it online. And slab packs give you the opportunity to get that feeling. Whether you're buying, selling, or displaying, Arena Club is a card collecting platform that you have to check out. Right now, you can get 10% off your first slab pack or card purchase by going to arenaclub.com/lockedon and use code LOCKEDONMLB. That's arenaclub.com/lockedonMLB, code LOCKEDONMLB for 10% off your first purchase.
So, Carter, we've had these conversations as well, talking about Alejandro Kirk. And can he, really put his money where his mouth is and be the catcher for this team full time? Just him, no backup. I mean, you will have the catcher tandem. This is from Keegan Matheson. Ross Atkin on the Blue Jays adding a catcher. Not a priority for us. If we were in an ideal world, it would be a left-handed hitting, polished receiver. Those guys are either locked up or valuable to other teams. We feel good about the options we have. So pretty much Ross Atkin is saying we're not going to go and look for a very expensive catcher that can come in and split time with Alejandro Kirk. They're rolling with their guy. How do you feel about this?
I think if you're going to go all in on Alejandro Kirk and you want to see what this guy can do, I think this is going to be the year to do it. You want to bounce back from a bunch of guys on this team. Alejandro Kirk might be one of those bounce back candidates for Ross Atkin and the front office. And when you look at Alejandro Kirk, this guy's just succeeded more so in his career when he has played the full time, just like every other MLB player. It's a lot easier to get into a groove when you're playing consistently rather than you playing every third game, every fourth game, once a series, you name it. It's tough to get in a little bit of a groove for that. And when we look at Alejandro Kirk throughout the first little bit of the season, again, as soon as Danny Jansen left, you had some injuries throughout the season. Obviously, for Danny Jansen, it's the Danny Jansen experience. But Alejandro Kirk, after the trade deadline, did have the opportunity to kind of show what he can do on the larger scale. So I'm just going to kind of go into the August and September stats for Alejandro Kirk here. In August, he hit 244, had a 230 on base, 402 slugging for an OPS of 732. September had a 297 average, which is very solid, 342 on base, 405 slugging, 747 OPS. And then I'll just go into the pre and post All-Star break. Pre-All-Star break hit 234, OPS of 631. Post All-Star break hit 269 with an OPS of 718. So it's obvious just from those stats. Now, when Alejandro Kirk was getting more games played, had over 20 in the months of August and September compared to around 10 to 15 for the other months. He got more comfortable as he was playing, looked very good defensively, made a ton of defensive strides. So when you have all these positional needs, as we've talked about on this podcast, corner outfield, the bullpen is such a nagging need, especially with the Cabrera loss. You have, again, the infield, you have third base, second base. Starting pitching is, for some reason, being talked about as well. So when we look at the catcher position, when you look at Alejandro Kirk, there's many more positions of need and many more positions that need to be addressed rather than the catcher position.
Yeah, Carter. And I think a catcher position is so hard to fill in a free agency. You really have to strike gold here with that right now. And which is weird. I think back, a few years ago, you could have said there's so many good catchers that you could wait till a free agency to do that. Now the times have changed and catchers are at a premium. Alejandro Kirk's defense is a premium. He plays a very good defensive game. The issue is, you're right, his hitting has been very up and down. But for a guy who isn't playing all the time, Carter, we've had these conversations, you've talked about it, it's impossible to get into any sort of groove. And I think that this will be a season where Alejandro Kirk can take full advantage and possibly succeed, and hopefully succeed. That's what we want to see. I think we've seen the upside of Alejandro Kirk, and we've seen the downside sometimes. So it's him trying to find out where he's going to play in the next bunch of years for this Toronto Blue Jays team. And will he be able to be and lock down this role as their number one catcher? I think this year, 100% is that make or break it moment for Alejandro Kirk. And to be honest, I have full faith in him. I think that this is the right decision. I don't think going and spending a ton of money on a catcher that's going to split time. I think it's just the wrong move. I think what Ross Atkins has done here and said here was the right thing. So, a lot of these topics go back to Ross Atkins and what is he going to do? And I know a lot of the time it's like, oh, I don't necessarily agree with them. Here, I think this is absolutely 1,000% the right thing to do.
Yeah, it allows you to address other needs on the team, and it also gives Alejandro Kirk a chance to earn that spot. If you want to be a starting catcher in the MLB consistently, he's got the defense to back it up. That's not obviously a debate here. One of the best framers in all of baseball. He started throwing runners out at the end too, so the floor defensively is very good. And with Alejandro Kirk, the thing he's advertised as, he has a very good eye, and he hits line drives. And he started to do that near the back half of the season as well. Got the barrel rate a little bit back up. Kind of had some flashes from 2022. We don't necessarily need Alejandro Kirk's 2022 season. Would that be awesome? Absolutely. I'd love to see Alejandro Kirk mashing baseballs. But this is going to be a guy that you're probably going to be relying on in the bottom of your order. At max, I have him hitting at 6. Even then, if you have Alejandro Kirk hitting at 6, I don't think you had that good of a free agency. So ideally, he's at the 7, 8, or 9 spot. This is going to be a guy that's rotating as of right now with Tyler Heineman. For a catcher, again, you're going to want Alejandro Kirk to play probably 60, like 2/3 to 3/4 of the games at the catcher position. So when you look at another guy that you'd be adding, all of this would be doing is you're making this catcher tandem. You're taking games away from Alejandro Kirk, where Alejandro Kirk is proven to be a very good MLB player when you do have, again, a hole at second base, a hole at left field, where these guys are going to be playing all the games, 150-something games, or you could get another catcher that's going to play, maybe 50 games. It just makes a lot more sense to go other positions.
100%. And I think another upside for Alejandro Kirk is that he hasn't shown, injury prone. He hasn't shown to be injury prone, which is a huge bonus for a catcher. We've seen a lot of guys have problems and struggle with that behind the dish. And then you end up paying these guys to only end up playing 50% of the year anyway. So if Alejandro Kirk can keep that going and staying healthy, that is pretty much all you really need from the guy is play good defense, be healthy, and see what you can do with the bat. And you'll have the time to be able to figure it out. So I really think this is 100% the right move.
Well, and he already has been spending time this offseason with David Popkins, who is the new hitting coach for the Toronto Blue Jays. We've kind of gone into, again, how much do hitting coaches necessarily matter, but it can't hurt, right? It can't hurt to get another perspective, more expertise on a team's hitting, especially with Alejandro Kirk, where it has been a little bit up and down. But to end this off with Alejandro Kirk, again, this isn't a guy that's going to be hitting 3 in the order. You don't need offensive numbers that are absolutely jumping off the page. You just need this guy to be serviceable if he could be around MLB average. I'm going to be pretty happy with that. So I'm going to give you just a couple of lines that just a little bit of a prediction for Alejandro Kirk and what you would be okay with seeing from Alejandro Kirk for the next season. So give me an average, give me an OPS, and let's do home runs as well. We'll throw and then for fun, stolen bases.
Okay, so that's an easy one. I think what I need to see from Alejandro Kirk is about 35 stolen bases.
Minimum,
just to make it worth it. But no, for an average, for Alejandro Kirk to be a little bit serious, Alejandro Kirk needs, like if he hits 255, 260, I think is Alejandro Kirk. I think I'm pretty happy with that. I think he went 250 this year, just over 250 as an average over the entire season.
253. So yeah.
Okay. There we go. So I'm right there. And on base, probably you're looking at around 350. I would think you want from him, maybe 320. No, probably 350, 335, somewhere in there. Probably an OPS. You're probably hoping for around 700. That's probably what you're ideally or not ideally, but that's probably where you want him to be if you consider it a decent season for Alejandro Kirk. And that's really all you're asking out of him, right?
Yeah, like obviously, if we want what we want to see Alejandro Kirk do is we want him to hit 1,000. We want him to have 100 million home runs, obviously. But to be more realistic with Alejandro Kirk, like we said, again, he's not going to be the key of your offense. I completely agree. If he's right at that, I actually had 255 as well. If he could hit that, I'm very happy with that. MLB average for OPS is usually between 710 and 715. If he can be at 720, I'm going to be very happy with what Alejandro Kirk is doing. Stolen bases, like you said, 35. I'm shooting for 50. This guy, again, showing the speed. He had a triple. Next one, stolen base for Alejandro Kirk. And home runs, I mean, I'm not as worried about the home runs. As long as this guy is hitting gets, is driving the ball. Yeah. Not hitting ground balls is going to be the biggest thing. I want that fly ball rate to be skyrocketed with Alejandro Kirk, because we know what happens if there's a runner on base and a ground ball with Alejandro Kirk in the infield. But yeah, it's a guy that is hopefully going to be a bounce back candidate as he kind of continued on throughout the months of August and September, played a lot better at baseball. If we can start to get some of those flashes from 2022 back from Alejandro Kirk, I'm definitely not going to be upset about what he's doing for the Toronto Blue Jays.
Yeah, and we talk. He doesn't need to be the long ball guy. I don't think that's his game. I think if you can get 10 to 15 home runs from him, I think that's more than enough from Alejandro Kirk. I don't think you're expecting him to be a 20 home run guy. So just hit the ball hard, pass the baton, keep it moving, be a decent piece, and just be stable behind the dish. Don't get injured. I think then you're looking at a pretty decent season from him. And that's all we can ask for.
Well, and kind of what Ross Atkin has said is that he doesn't see many other options that are going to be better than Alejandro Kirk. And I have to agree with them. Unless you want to go out and pay a catcher, which we're definitely opposed to when you have Alejandro Kirk there, is it really going to be that much of a benefit when there's so many other glaring positions in need? So Alejandro Kirk, along with some of the other guys that we're going to be talking about this podcast, there's a lot of bounce back candidates. I don't know if you can necessarily say Alejandro Kirk is a bounce back candidate, but I expect him to have a pretty good season.
Yeah, me too, man. Me too. We have some other cool stuff to get into here. Little tidbit here from back in the day with the Toronto Blue Jays and sort of where they would be at now. We'll be right back with all that as soon as we come back from this break. Today's episode brought to you by Game Time. We've talked about Game Time a ton. They have their new Game Time picks. It makes it even easier to save on more sports, comedy, concerts, theater, etc. They have their all-in pricing. I love their all-in pricing feature. You can toggle this and it shows the total upfront with no surprise fees. The surprise fees, really, there's so many apps right now that sell tickets that hide fees at the end. You think you got a good deal, you go into the checkout and there's an extra $20-$30 tacked on for something. And it's just very, very frustrating. And Game Time makes sure that you don't have to go through that. They also have their seat views where you can get a panoramic view from your seat in the app before you buy the tickets. I always like to know sort of what I'm sitting, what my view is going to be, because if there's two tickets that are sort of similar in price, I can then make my decision of which one has the better view. They have the lowest price guarantee, or Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time picks. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code Locked On MLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDON MLB for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game Time. Today's episode also brought to you by FanDuel. I've talked probably your ear off about how much I love FanDuel, but when you're winning money, it's easy to talk about. Get ready to take on NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now new customers can bet $5, get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need, all in one place to bet on the NFL, and pretty much anything you need, anything you want to bet on, actually. So when you get a hunch in the middle of a game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. I'm telling you, I have been winning on these NFL picks. Make sure you guys get on them because they have some good lines on there, and I think you can really take advantage, especially with the $150 in bonus bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. So, Carter, getting right in segment 3 here. A little bit of a longer episode, I guess, today. Just a lot to talk about. There's been a ton of news that have come out, and sort of a cool one from a couple, what would have, could have, should have happened a couple of years ago.
Yeah, we probably wouldn't be having these Bo Bichette conversations if this would have happened. So with these last segments, again, there's such a long off season. Again, we were lucky now that a lot of stuff came out from just different reporters. Ross Atkins had some meetings as well. So this one is just what could have happened for the Toronto Blue Jays and what we could have looked like if this trade would have went through. So former New York Mets GM Zach Scott recently revealed that star shortstop Francisco Lindor was almost traded to the Toronto Blue Jays more than 3 years ago and likely would have signed a long-term extension in the process. What a team. Imagine what we would have looked like. Again, Bo Bichette, you don't know who is going to be a part of this trade. You would have to assume it's going to be some fairly highly touted prospects, as Lindor, again, just has been getting better and better. Probably wouldn't have carried the weight and the trade value that obviously he did this season. But Vladimir Guerrero Jr., Francisco Lindor, George Springer, when, he wasn't a pumpkin at the plate, this team could have been very good.
Yeah, man, this sucks to hear, to be honest with you. I saw this a little bit ago, and there was like some rumors, some rumblings about this, and I had a conversation with Ross Levitan, host of Locked On Sense, and just saying like how different it would have been, like what a time it would have been to be a Blue Jays fan, and who knows. The other part about this is I never really like looking back sort of on the coulda, shoulda, would has happened, because things could have went completely different. But looking at the seasons that Francisco Lindor has put up, I mean, there really isn't a whole lot better than him. So at the end of the day, this would have been an outstanding move for the Blue Jays, barring obviously what some of the trade pieces were. But I couldn't imagine it would have been giving up Vladimir Guerrero Jr. So I think I would have been fine with whatever it would have been just to get him on the team and get him into the lineup.
Well, imagine it would have been, I don't know, like a Ricky Tiedemann or Elvis Martinez, like that type of trade. And then you get Francisco Lindor at the MLB level. And then you don't have to worry about Ricky Tiedemann even having a shoulder or an elbow. Like you don't have to worry about his health in that sense. Yeah. A lot of these types of prospects, as we've talked about, the reason why we don't really want a Bo Bichette or Vladimir Guerrero Jr. trade is because prospects are prospects. They're not MLB talent players. They haven't proved anything at the MLB level. So again, it's a little bit like buying a lottery ticket. You got to hope that some of them work out. Some of them you win more than others. But the overwhelming majority do not work out, or at least aren't as advertised when they make it to the MLB. So when you have a guy like Francisco Lindor, when you have a superstar amongst you, if you could pull that trigger, if the Toronto Blue Jays can make a big trade, like maybe they will this offseason, I'm going to be way more inclined to get a guy that's already proven rather than taking some chances on some prospects.
Oh, me too. And we've had, I mean, again, we've had this conversation. I feel like I say that all the time, but we've had conversations because it all sort of links back together, right? Of when the talks came in about trading Bo Bichette and Vladimir Guerrero Jr., and they have, my immediate thought is, why in the world? Let's not do that. How about? Because you don't want to take a run on some random prospect. I mean, yes, sometimes they work out. Like Will Wagner has looked fantastic, and that looked like a great move. But for the most part, it's a complete gamble. It is a complete lottery system with prospects because there's injuries. There's, just how they progress through the different leagues. There's so many little pieces and components. How they bounce back from a not good season. How do they deal with a good season? How do they deal with MLB pitching? There are so many other things that go on with this, Carter. And so at the end of the day, this would have been a great move to have Francisco Lindor on this team. Only probably, you're right, giving up prospects. It would have been, like, looking back, it would have been such an elite move. But, it coulda, woulda, shoulda, right?
Yeah, I mean, imagine if they gave up Kevin Biggio and Nate Pearson. We wouldn't really be hurting too much right now, would we? So
No.
again, hindsight is 2020, but just imagine a Vladdy, Bo Bichette, Springer, Lindor, Kirk. I mean, we'll throw him in there, whatever.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
But again, the top four would have been absolutely insane. But again, you can't really rely on that. It's just, I don't like doing this a lot of the time because it just, it just doesn't do no good. You just get a little bit frustrated. You get the emotions a little bit hiked up, and for absolutely no reason. Because back at that time, were we going to think Francisco Lindor was going to have this good of a season? I knew he was a good ball player, but this one even surprised me. I know you were a little bit higher on Lindor than I was going into this season, but just what a player this guy is. And just what could the Toronto Blue Jays have been if they would have pulled this trade off?
Yeah, I've always been a Francisco Lindor fan. I've sort of just always liked him for no particular reason, really. I've just, playing MLB
like
the
swing
show.
in MLB. Yeah, there it is.
Yeah.
He goes back to MLB the show every single time with this guy.
Well, the problem is I've played MLB the show since I was like a kid. So it's like I could picture everybody's swings. I can actually picture everybody's strike zones from all like the players that you use consistently. So it's hilarious. He's got a great swing. But in saying that, no, I mean, whatever. Hindsight is hindsight. But hopefully the Blue Jays can now bring in a big piece this season to complement them, and then we can sort of see in that vein of how that might have shaken out if they would have done it back a few years ago. And hopefully it'll be this year. And this is the season where we'll get complementary pieces to Bo Bichette, Vladimir Guerrero Jr.
I want to backtrack to one thing that you said about Lindor's strike zone. That's a pretty good spin zone, actually, that we might be able to, get something going on. Let's just get a bunch of short guys on the Toronto Blue Jays. Who wants Aaron Judge? Because his strike zone is massive. We need so many places to throw the ball. You have so many pieces of the strike zone that you can have. Let's just get I know there's no midgets allowed, no little people, I guess you could say. I'm not sure what the proper term is anymore, allowed in the MLB for that exact reason. Let's just get a bunch of Jose Altuves on the team so it's a limited strike zone. And some of these guys that are a little bit wild might be able to draw some more walks.
Yeah, we need just 9 Alejandro Kirks on the team. And how funny would that be? 9 Alejandro Kirks just running the bases. Like, you just send them out. Like, that's the fan appreciation day. It's just all them running the
Well,
bases.
we might be sitting there for 3 days if that was what we were doing. And a home run trot might take 4 hours. So I don't know if that would necessarily be the best viewing experience, but it definitely would be fun watching them going out there.
Got it. All right, guys. We appreciate you watching. This has been a fun episode. We got a ton more. There's so much news. It is, and so much important news, which is a crazy thing, right? All these free agencies sort of came into Ross Atkin answers the media, and now we have a million answers. How much do you believe it? How much you don't? We're going to talk all about all that kind of stuff coming up in the next bunch of days. And actually, what could be a big piece to this team moving forward. We'll talk about that tomorrow. Make sure you guys stay tuned. And we appreciate you guys for making us your first listen. If you want to find a second listen, check out Locked On MLB with host Paul Sullivan. Sully, he's got a great show over there. Anything else before we kick out of here, Carter?
We're back on the shorts. The shorts are flying out from us with all the information. We're kind of, getting excited again for some Toronto Blue Jays baseball. I just celebrated the other day. I missed seeing Toronto Blue Jays baseball, but if we would have had 2024 Toronto Blue Jays baseball, it probably would have taken me a whole 2 days to get frustrated again. So yeah, we'll just be on the lookout for the shorts. The likes, comments, subscriptions, everything has been obviously appreciated. And we encourage you guys to get in some debates with us in the comment sections, whether you guys agree with us, whether you disagree with us, whether you think we're absolute idiots. I don't care what it is. Just let us know how you guys are feeling about the Toronto Blue Jays season. Thank you guys for watching, and we'll talk to you guys tomorrow.